So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. And today is, what is today? Today is Tuesday, November the 2nd, 2021. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you in the queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show, which is so much better than a monologue because you ask the questions and it gives us the opportunity to search within ourselves and within the work for the answers. And oftentimes we learn ourselves from your questions. Push 1. We'll give Michael just a minute to get dialed in. I'll invite you to go to the website, whyagain.org, whyagain.org. Click on the Start Here button or scroll down in the bullseye in the middle of the page. Both take you to the same place. And that gives you all the tools of where to start. And then we're here 5 days a week to answer your questions or to offer support. So what is it that you need support in? And if you have purchased MP4s, we're having some issues on Vimeo. So give us a day or so, get that straightened out. And then those links should be working again just fine. So our apologies for technical issues, but this one was out of our hands. But we're going to try to get it straightened out. So we thank you for your support. And thanks for listening to another pre-recording yesterday. I know that we've played that one several times, but yesterday was really busy. Dad had 2 different doctor's appointments that I had to take him to, which left Michael here with Aria for most of the day. And so a little bit distraction, and we needed to play a recording so that we could put our attention where it was needed at the moment. So thank you for your indulgence when we have to do a replay. Give Michael just another minute. So press 1 if you have a question. I was working with someone this morning, and I'll be working with her again this evening. And it was easy, even for me, to get off in doing the worksheet to change subjects. And so when Michael gets on, I'll actually repeat that and get him to talk about it. You know, you're going along and you're doing a worksheet on a specific person or event, and then you get down to the goal, and the goal really doesn't match the person or the event. And so that means you've switched worksheets, and when you do that, then when you cancel that goal, you're not going to get down to the bottom issue of your original issue. You're not going to find the root of what's holding you back on that. And, you know, we do that unconsciously, but sometimes it's to avoid. And so I was just tapping into her story. And so anyway, when we work again this evening, I'm going to point out to her that it was actually 2 different worksheets that we were merging together, and see if that gives her a little more clarity. And so when Michael gets on, I'll give the example of that. Let's see if he's having some trouble in there. There he is. Hi.
I am on it.
What I was just saying is, in working with someone this morning, and I'm going to be working with her again this evening, that I even found myself switching worksheets in the middle of the page or going along with her as she switched worksheets. And so I'm going to point out tonight that it was actually 2 different worksheets that we were merging into one. And I think that's something that happens a lot. Is, you know, people start out with an event, an emotion, a feeling, and then when they set the goal is actually about something else. Have you found that to be true?
It's a great avoidance mechanism, yes. That's why the emphasis so often is on make sure that the goal that you're identifying is really precise and involves the issue you're working with. That game of switching issues is just another form of avoidance. You know, I really wanted this person to treat me lovingly, gently, and with respect. And then what people do when they get down to step 5, identifying the goal, pardon me, is I just want a happy life. Well, what happens with a goal is it determines, you know, when you think of the millions of files in the human mind, files so to speak, the goal is going to link into the content of a particular file. If I've got a painful experience going on in file A, but I shift to a goal that's going to take me into file B, I just short-circuited my healing process, and I'm avoiding what it is I'm really dealing with. And sadly, a lot of people begin to understand the process and go, yeah, I want to go for this. I want to do this. This is awesome. But then it comes back to that old saw of don't make me look. And, you know, I love how Dr. Tim says it. He says there's no such thing as bad self-knowledge, that whatever's in there, you know. Another point that's just becoming more and more clear to me the more I process and do my work is that we have this energy system called the body-mind unit. And this body-mind unit is a reflection of an accumulation of energetic patterns. There's an interesting piece of work that was done by a medical researcher working with multiple personalities. And they bring a woman in who's a known multiple, and people tend to have as many personas or personalities as they do forms of abuse that have occurred. And excuse me, but someone's calling in my phone. I couldn't get rid of it. In any event, so there are oftentimes many different personas, and a persona is just a perceptual construct about self. It's the self that Yeshua said, in order for you to live, you've got to die. That self that is based in falsity has to go. And it's stored in physiology. So here they bring this woman in, and she's a known diabetic. If she doesn't get her insulin every day, she'll die. They bring her into the lab. They induce a persona, a personality shift. Now, my interpretation of a personality shift is they resonate brain cells other than the persona, the set of the compilation of brain cells that runs her normal personality and her normal life. And when they shift her into, when they resonate a different set of brain cells, which means they change her physiology, all of a sudden she's got no trace of diabetes. And if they give her insulin, it could kill her. What just happened? You know, if we think of a tube and we look in one end, we see one thing, we look in the other end, perhaps we see another. Let's say there's a coin in the middle. So I look in one end of the tube and I see George Washington's head on this quarter. And I look in the other end of the tube and I see this dancing lady, the female on the back of the coin. And I think, oh, well, they're two different things, but they're actually exactly opposite sides of exactly the same thing. The persona, operative, perceptual construct of the mind that reflects, you know, the predominant resonant energy that this person is living in, or that tends to run their lives. So I look at that end and I say, oh, well, they have a personality. And then I look in the other end of the tube and I say, oh, they have a body. But they're one and the same thing. And when you shift what's running one, you shift the other. So the idea of forgiveness is to look for the goal that precisely matches the construct of the mind that contains pain. When I do that and I collapse it, I'm collapsing, you know, if I'm looking in one end of the tube, I'm looking at the persona, I'm collapsing all the personality facets that make up my way of behaving and thinking about myself, et cetera, et cetera. That's one end of the coin, but on the other end, I'm looking at a change in physiology when that shift occurs. And because so much of the personality traits are based, you know, personality traits based in fear and rage and guilt and grief and pain and trauma, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to go there. Well, I'll just shift and work on a different goal. Take me to a whole different set of brain cells, and I don't have to face, or I think I don't have to face that. But the problem with that is I still get to face that disintegrative energy and its impact on my physiology. Sooner or later, I have to deal with it. I'm either going to deal with it physically, or I'm going to get to look at the other end, looking in the other end of the pipe. I'm going to look at the perceptual construct, and I'm going to begin to dissolve the dis-ease energy that is this particular painful event. When I do, the tissue that is physiologically distorted by the presence of that disintegrative energy is going to instantly heal. But it takes great wisdom to say, I'm willing to face the deepest roots of my pain and let them come forward. And the practice required is, can I hold to conscious, active, present love? There's the beauty of working with someone like yourself, that when you're doing that, or when we're on the show, there's a whole community of people that are holding that space of active love, so that if one person or another can't hold to it for themselves, there's support. But yeah, that goal is really major key. And things tend to become intertwined, and distraction is oftentimes, people's way of dealing with their lives, or more correctly, not dealing with their lives. Oh, I created a distraction. So yeah, switching goals, that's a very, very common thing. And most people, when you guide them to the actual goal, and sometimes people think it's miraculous. How did you know what my goal was? Well, here's the easy way to determine what the goal is. You're thinking about this situation. Tell me, in this situation, if you were talking to the person involved, and you were to say what the ideal outcome would be in that situation, there's your goal. It's really easy to get to. It's like, gee, somebody says, and I've seen this happen 1,000 times, well, I'm just not sure. I don't know what the goal is. Well, tell me, if you were to say to this person what the ideal outcome is, what would it be? Oh, well, if they would just, okay, so there's your goal. And the more precise it is, the more profound the healing result will be. And sometimes the more impactful and painful will be the energy that is going to surface when we look there. So, yeah, it's really common. Developing the skill of selecting the goal that's really involved here and being willing to go for it it's a big piece of work. So nice catch with her.
And we don't have any hands up, and there's no comments in the chat room, so I guess go to the reading.
Well, I have a book here to read.
All right.
And we're in Waking from the Has-Been. And of course, the has-been is everything stored in the mind from the past. So we've been talking to Richard about the healing crisis, what healing looks like, and how people say, oh, I want things to change. I want things to change. But I'm not going to change. There's a cute cartoon that came across on my Facebook page a little while back, and there's a guy who looks like he's probably a politician standing in front of an audience. There are a bunch of people, and he's roaring away about, yeah, we're going to bring change. And everybody's throwing their hats up in the air and balloons and celebration. There's going to be change. And in the next frame, he says, now, how many want to change? Everybody's heads looking down, glum faces. It's like, well, we want life to change, but we forget that we're creators to set life up to play out the way it's playing out. So if we want life to change, we're going to need to change. So I explained to Richard the experiment I do in my workshops. I ask everyone in the audience to step back from their minds and observe what happens inside. I then ask them to each put their right hand on their right ear. I invite everyone to look around and notice that each person is doing pretty much the same thing. Why did they all do the same action and put their right hand on their right ear, Richard? Well, they followed your directions. Offered Richard, I have another theory. In each mind, there are brain cells storing information from the past. Each person was trained in what the words right, hand, and ear meant. When I spoke, I caused those brain cells to fire, and each one was shown the reality contained in their brain cell structure and followed the directions given to them by that reality. They did not follow my directions. Oh, come on, Michael. Of course they followed your directions, Richard protests. The instructions, put your right hand in your right ear, came from my voice. True. The reality that each mind had for those words came from the past of each individual involved in the exercise. The only reason each person did the same thing is that they were all taught the same realities about right hand and ear. They didn't follow my directions, but the directions came from their minds, from their past. Interesting theory, Michael, but how do we verify it? I thought you might ask that, Richard. Imagine that we have somebody in the audience whose mother trained them differently. Imagine his mother taught him that the nose is an ear. Where did he put his hand when I said, put your right hand on your right ear? Well, he'd put his hand on his nose, of course. Put that in our context of our search to verify that everything from the mind is from the past. I give one set of instructions, but two different results were produced. One person was out of step with everyone and put his hand on his nose, which he had been taught was an ear. Was anyone following my instructions? I offer that each person followed the guidance of the reality that my instruction triggered in them, and the guidance came from the past, in each mind, not from my words. And key thought in this particular piece of reading is another key to healing. Give yourself permission to experience life differently. Now, one of the things that I often reinforce, and it feels right to do it now, is to not believe a word that I'm saying. We're inviting you to take this, and of course the other side of that coin would be, rather than disbelieve it, check it out and experiment with it. See what happens. See what your experience is with it. And rather than belief or disbelief, if you check it out, if it's true, it's going to be your own. It's not going to just be some belief that you bought into. For me, all kinds of nonsense out there that people buy into because some authority says it. And so the has-been recognizes, everything that comes from the mind, by definition, had to be in there in order to fire. If it was in there, then it's from the past. And if the constructs of our mind, the realities of our mind are all related to what's stored in the mind from the past, then where do most people live their lives? They're living in the past. It's only when we really truly wake up to the truth of who we are that we can have a true live present moment experience. Because even if something coming from the mind is accurate about the present moment, but it's coming from the mind, it's still a dead experience. And we're looking to tap people on the shoulder, the spiritual shoulder, the soul, the being, wake them up so that their experiences come from the truth of who they are and the direct interaction with what's actually occurring in the world at any given moment, rather than in the coming from the world that the mind creates, which is all basically a reflection of something from the past. So, waking from the has-been and waking from the has-been means that the energetic patterns, we've offered before that hostility and fear are markers that there's something moving within us that's based in corrupt data. Anything based in hostility or fear is a reflection of something from the past that's just replaying itself out. And it's replaying out of corrupt data. And, if you think about your phone or your computer, you dial a certain phone number, you put it in, but if the data's corrupt, you're going to get, instead of getting Bill, you're going to get Harry. Oh, I didn't want to talk to Harry. Well, that's where my phone went. So why? Because when we're dealing with the past, if we don't know that there's a signal that tells us when the past is in error, we'll tend to be stuck in it. We'll tend to play it out. That's what Yash referred to as the blind leading the blind and the dead burying the dead. And we want to wake up from that and truly begin to function as alive, awake, aware human beings created as the essence of love, the truth of who we are. And so if that resonates something for you, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear questions or questioning, and or is there something we can support you in? The purpose of this show is to be here to create a space for learning and for doing process work. And our definition of process is the ability to hold love conscious, active, and present when something less than love comes up. So if you're out there in listener land and you've got something you would like to process, we would love to support you. That's what we're here for. If you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, our call-in number is 563-999-3581, 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you'll be listening to the show. And once you're listening, if you push 1, that will raise a hand in the control panel, and we'll be having a conversation. So if you're out there in listener land, how can we support you? What's on your mind? Do we have anything happening in the chat room, sweetie, or anything happening in the phone queue?
No, it is all quiet. I was announcing to everyone this while we were waiting for you to get on that we were having some issues with Vimeo, and to be patient if they had bought an MP4 and the link wasn't working, that we are aware of that and we are working on it. And you might announce that not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday, the 13th, is the next breath workshop.
Yeah, we'll be doing a Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing workshop the second Saturday of this month, as we are doing now every month. If you are interested in participating in that, you can drop Jeannie a note at JEANIE@WHYagain.org, Jeannie at whyagain.org, or if you've got my number, you can call me, call Jeannie. Include, if you're writing to her, your name and phone number, and we'll get back to you to get you registered, or at least to explain the process to you if you're interested in joining us. Basically, we are setting up an ongoing participation opportunity with that workshop. And the levels of participation are, you can do a single Saturday Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing, and if you do that, we'll be sending you links to 2 different videos and an audio for you to do some self-study and to work on a mind shifter prior to the Saturday workshop. So normally what we do when we're doing it live is on Friday evening we'll get together, we'll explain the mind shifters process, and we'll assign a mind shifter, then ask you to write that Friday night or Saturday morning, and then that will prepare you to go into the Still Point Breathing workshop. Well, since we're doing it via Zoom, we're actually sending you 3 different support pieces about the mind shifter process, 3 different links that will be videos, 2 of them videos and 1 of them audio that you can listen to, watch, and select the mind shift you're going to work on. And then on Saturday, having done that work, you'll be prepped and we'll do the still point breathing process. We'll do some processing around what came up with the writing. We'll do the still point breathing process that will start at 10 in the morning, and depending on the size of the group, it'll go through sometime in the afternoon. And then on the following Wednesday, from 7 till 9 p.m., we'll do a question and answer and processing session. So the workshop will actually spread out. We used to do it Friday night and Saturday. We're going to cover the Friday night by sending you those advanced links, then the Saturday breath workshop, and then Wednesday will be an additional processing session. So we've rearranged things a little bit since we're doing this online with Zoom. And if you're interested in participating, then drop us a note. It'd be awesome to have you there. One of the things Jeannie and I had just talked about recently is that of putting and Jeannie's checking it out, of putting an additional feature into the Heartland Aramaic Mission app. You probably already know that we have the world's only forgiveness app. You can actually download it free if you go to your app store and just type in the words Heartland, Heartland, that's all one word, Aramaic, Aramaic, mission. If you type Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness, if you type that in, you'll be looking at and have a free download of the world's only forgiveness app. And there are several features in it. There's a kids game for introducing children to forgiveness. It's called the Dragon Klingon game, with Rory, dragons, and all. There are 2 different versions of the worksheet process, of the forgiveness step-by-step process. There is a copy of and access to the commitment from the Healing Through Relationships workshop. And if we can do it reasonably, we're going to add a feature where if you're doing the work and you come across a question, you can just write from within the app, click and send an email, and that email will check on a daily basis for the radio show and will answer the questions in the show, so that somebody who works on an afternoon when the radio show's playing can ask their question, and at the same time we'll email you back and tell you what date and time it was that we answered that question, so you can go back and get the answer. So hopefully that'll be another feature we can integrate into the app. In the meantime, the app is totally private. We encourage people to use it and to use it to look at any issue in your life. And we purposely made the app as trim and slim and free of permissions as possible, so that you could be assured that your work there is totally and completely private. Only thing the app is going to ask you to do is to give it permission to use the internet, because without the internet connection, of course, it's not going to work. Other than that, the app requires no permissions in order for you to do the worksheet process and make use of the app. If you choose at the end of doing a worksheet to print it, then it will ask one additional permission, and that permission will be to save it to your drive so that you've got access to it in the future. And we encourage people to save those. But otherwise, we're not asking if we can send text or use your camera or dial your phone or change your settings, which so many silly permissions are required by so many apps out there. I think that's part of how some people finance their apps, is by selling information. But we don't make your information available to anyone. It's used only for this work. So if you don't have the app, head to your app store and download it. You can also go to the website and do the forgiveness process right there live on the website, similar to the way you do it in the app. But you can do it just on your computer on the internet. or you can download the worksheets and print them from your own printer so that you've got printed copies to work with. So there are lots of ways to put the tools to work, and we are here because the shift in understanding of how life works that has to take place in order to really, truly integrate this work is monumental. From the hostility and fear-based beliefs of the world to recognizing that we are literally the created essence of love and are designed to experience that 24/7, 365. It's quite a variation from the world that thinks, well, a little rage, a little hate, a little fear, a little intimidation, a little theft, what's that all matter? Well, energetically, it matters tremendously. And so, if we can support you in bringing these tools together in your life, if there's something specific that you feel you need some support to process, or you'd like to have some support to process, or a specific question, now's the time to push one and let's have a conversation. And we'll take a minute of silence to emphasize that it's time to push one. And let's open the conversation. We've got 30 minutes left for process work, question and answer. So how can we support you? What's on your mind? How are these tools fitting into your life? Some people don't call because they're afraid their voice is going to be shaky, or they don't want to expose themselves personally. Well, there's no need. I will certainly, when we start to talk to you, ask for a name, but, if you want to remain private, you're happy to tell me your name is Harry. It's irrelevant. Whatever works in that regard. And if you think your voice might be a little shaky being on the phone, can you make it okay? Or being on the show, can you make it okay if your voice is shaky? And so what? Let's just carry forward. How can we support you? Sometimes people say, oh, well, I'm new to this, so I really don't even know what questions to ask, but I have 100 questions. Well, then that's the question to ask. The next one on your mind is quite literally the question to ask. And oftentimes some of the questions asked by total newbies to this work really give us the opportunity to return to some of the basics involved in using the work. And so we appreciate those questions. Sometimes it's something we need to be taken back to and can be a really important step to moving forward. So what's on your mind? If I were in your hometown presenting this, and I shared what I've shared so far, I'm in your local library on a platform, or your local church, or your local prison, or university, or community center. When I step down off the platform, would you be coming over and introducing yourself and saying, well, I just have one quick question?
We have two hands up. We have two hands
up. Awesome. Say hello.
All right. The first one's area code 317. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Hi, this is Sarah.
Well, hey there, young lady. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you. I guess I was kind of wondering, you mentioned the mind shifters. I think you said it was like a worksheet as well. What's the difference between that and I call them like the work it out sheet or the forgiveness worksheet? Is it the same thing?
You want to take that, Jeannie?
Oh,
we have
sure.
many, many different worksheets from different workshops. Go ahead, Jeannie.
Okay, so the mind shifters is a list of things that your mind will have a negative thought about. Like everyone always honors me and gives me what I ask. And your mind would probably come back and say, well, that's a bunch of crap. That's not true. That never happens to me, or whatever. So what you do is you take a piece of paper and you draw a line down the middle of the page, and you put the mind shifter on the left side of the page. And then you basically do a brain dump on the right side of the page. You don't try to analyze it or make sense of it. It doesn't even matter if you think that it's related to that mind shifter. I mean, if a thought goes across your mind, oh, I need to, get to my next client, or I need to go check on my grandmother, or I need to go feed the dog, you even write those things down. When you run out of stuff to write, then you go back and write the mind shifter again, and then you do another brain dump. And what happens is when we have things in our subconscious versus our conscious mind, it only takes a little bit to resonate it. Like if I say, what color is your car? And you might say it's white. And then I say, okay, what does your house look like? And you might say it's red brick. Well, when you're thinking of what your house looks like, you're not thinking of what your car looks like. And when I say, what's your favorite item of clothing, or what's your favorite food? So just my asking the question will trigger something out of the subconscious into your conscious. So those two change places all the time. But then you have the unconscious, and that's where we stuff things down that we don't really want to look at, don't want to deal with. We push it away. And so if you write the mind shifter enough, it will trigger something in the unconscious, and it will come forward on the paper. But you just are basically just writing whatever pops, and then you can go back later and look at it and see what comes out of it. And so it's a writing exercise that you usually want to give yourself, 1 to 2 hours just to sit and do the writing undisturbed, just to allow whatever thoughts come. And I've done mind shifters before where I've had to write the mind shifter like 20 times on the left side of the page before any thought comes for me to put on the right. And then there's been other times that I write the mind shifter one time and I write pages and pages and pages of stuff that pops up from it. And then you can also later go back and look at what you wrote and go, oh, wow, that's an issue. I need to do a worksheet on that one. So then you would flip over to the Reality Management wake-up sheet and do a wake-up sheet on that particular little issue. And so it's a totally different tool, and that is on the website under if you click on Start Here or the bullseye, it will take you to where all of the worksheets are. And but I have your number, so I'll send you the direct link to that as well. And I'll also put it in the notes for today. If you go to our website under the microphone, it will take you to where you can access all of the archives of the radio shows. And if I attempt to take notes every day, but then like yesterday we were busy doing other things, and we actually played a replay of an old show, so I don't have notes on yesterday's show at all. But so anyway, that's one of the tools, and I'll send you the direct link to that, but then also you can find it in the notes for today too, the direct link to the mind shifters.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Well, I guess so then you do the mind shifters, and then in the workshops on Saturday the 13th, you do the mind shifter, and then you do the still point breathing. And can you explain a little bit more about the still point breathing?
You want to go for that one, Michael?
Sure. Tag team. The idea of why we link mind shifters and still point breathing together is that when somebody's going to go into the still point process, what that particular breath is designed to do is to literally blow off the energy of disturbance around any given issue. And the idea of the mind shifter is to stir the mind so that things we normally might hide from ourselves are kind of resonating and moving. They're activated. I like to tell a story about, back in the 70s, the price of sugar went through the roof. It was just crazy. And, so there's a story about the guy who's got a little coffee shop. He's going broke. And the guy comes in and orders a cup of coffee, and the price of sugar is just outrageous, and pushes the sugar over to the guy, and he puts a spoon of sugar in his coffee, and he puts another spoon of sugar in his coffee, and he puts another spoon of sugar and another, and this guy can just see his profits going down the drain, and he grabs the sugar back, and he says, doesn't that make your coffee too sweet? And the customer says, hell no, not if you don't stir it. And the idea of the mind shifter is to get things stirring. So we suggest that people write it the night before, work on a mind shifter the night before. We've got a system for selecting a mind shifter to work with. In fact, if you'd like, and this will be a good demonstration of how the process works, we have a specific process for selecting mind shifters. If you'd like to, you want us to find you a mind shifter right now, and you can work on it before your session with Jeannie tonight?
Sure.
Okay. So the way we select it is by choosing numbers. So I'm going to ask you to pick the first number, tell us what the first number is that comes to mind from 1 to 3. What clicks in your mind, 1, 2, or 3?
3.
3, okay. And then pick a second number from 1 to 13.
7.
First one that pops in your head, 7. Okay, so 3, 7. Jeannie, maybe you can look that up while I explain it. So what, over the last 40 years or so of working with people with both the mind shifter and still point breathing tool, I can try to figure out with my mind what you should work on, or you can try to figure out with your mind what you should work on. And usually the mind will trick us. It'll bring us into avoidance. But before I asked you what numbers you were going to select, I invited you to be guided to the right numbers that would give you the right mind shifter to work on that would be most useful to you right now. And so we have a sheet with 3 sections, section 1, 2, and 3. So the first number determined whether your mind shifter is going to come from section 1, section 2, or section 3. And then in each of those sections, there are 13 mind shifters. So Jeannie now is going to tell you what mind shifter 3-7 is, and let's see it. It's often hilarious when we do this in intensives. We've got people who they've been together, let's say 5 or 6 or 7 days before you go into the still point breathing process, and so they've got to know each other fairly well. And there are often gales of laughter when people select their numbers because somebody will pick a number and it's exactly what they were just talking about 10 minutes ago. So let's see how this fits with your conversation with Jeannie. Jeannie, what's 3-7?
It fits perfect. All right, Sarah, it is. Do you have a pen or I can send it to you?
I have a pen.
Okay. My relationship with blank. Okay. And you fill that in with the first person. So, like we were talking about your sister this morning, so you might want to put her in there. Mm-hmm. And the last part is heals my guilt.
Heals
my relationship. Heals. My relationship with blank heals my guilt.
Okay.
So was that on target with what you guys were processing this morning in your session?
Yes. Yes.
Cool. It's uncanny how, as I say in intensives, people just laugh hilariously because we just finished a conversation, with Bill, and Bill comes up with his 2 numbers, and bang, there's the mind shifter. It's just right on with what his conversation just goes through the whole room that way. It always just takes it right to the core. So the idea of that now, to use that as a mind shifter, is you take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle of the page. You write the mind shifter on the left, my relationship with blank heals my guilt. And then whatever that triggers in you, on the right-hand side, you write it. And it might be, oh, that's silly. And then you write it again, my relationship with blank heals my guilt. Well, that's just ridiculous. How could that heal my guilt? They just make me guilty every time I see them. My relationship with blank, and you just keep writing. And what happens is the brain cells relating to whoever's name you put in there and any related guilt will tend to resonate and resonate and resonate. And what has to happen in order for things to come to conscious awareness is the brain cells need to fire with enough strength or amplitude for you to become conscious of them. So each time you write the mind shifter, it moves what otherwise we tend to live our lives keeping suppressed. So it doesn't move. So this just gets it moving. And you may find, and as Jeannie said, take an hour or 2 hours and just sit and write that. And censor nothing, just write whatever comes up. almost don't even pay attention to it. Just go into it and just write. And oftentimes, and I say this from personal experience, when I've worked on a mind shifter, and then I go back and look at it afterwards, it's like, oh my God, where did that come? That doesn't even look like my writing. I don't even remember writing that. And that's when that unconscious dynamic starts to open. And the reason we do this in hand with the still point breathing process is because whatever's been stirred up by the mind shifter through the still point breathing process, that energy will be dissipated, and people will tend to move in the direction of being freed from whatever that issue is.
Okay, thank you.
So now you've got your first experience with a mind shifter. Awesome. And if anybody else is out there listening and you would like to get a mind shifter to try the process out, pick two numbers, one from 1 to 3, second number from 1 to 13, and push 1 and ask Jeannie for a mind shifter, and she'll give you a mind shifter. And thank you. Any other thoughts for you? Anything else on your mind? Anything we can support you with?
Not that I can think of presently.
Okay, Sarah. Delighted. Nice to talk with you.
Yes, thank you. Nice to talk with you too.
Okay. All righty. Blessings.
Awesome. And our next number, did you want to say something else first before I take the next caller?
No, let's go for it.
Okay, area code 541. I think this is Julie Matthews.
Hello, Miss Julie.
Oh, can you hear me?
You're loud and clear, young lady. How are you?
Oh, I forgot I was in the queue. Wow.
Okay.
That's just bringing up everything in me. I was just filling in the blank about 100 times. No, not quite. But I'm also driving to an appointment, so I won't be able to really do the call now. But I just say hi and breathe. And I'm looking forward.
And what's going on that you're kind of holding your breath back there?
I've been holding my breath a lot. It's this thing that came up in my last Mind Shifter Still Point group meeting, and I really want to attend this time. And there's this person I'm in relationship with, and I have allowed, with whatever personality I've adapted with, I have allowed him to run my life and dominate and think that he can just keep bossing me around. And so I get to feel feelings, which will probably heal my guilt. That's what I'm thinking. So,
well, and if you look at, is this a replication of a power person dynamic where your power person felt like they were supposed to run your life and you succumbed to it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm so aware of these things, but I guess I'm finding out that really I'm not going to, here it is, I'm trying to figure it out with all the smart things I know, but really doing the mind shifter and the still point, if we're lucky enough to do that, which you offer to us now, that's the way the release happens, and it's nothing that I can do to force it. I can only surrender to it and be willing.
Right. You got it.
And, yeah, but my breath has been really stuck, and even when I just lay down to sleep, and I know to lay down with my head properly and still point breathe, I'm blocking even going into still point. So it's just a mind thing that I'm trying to control, I guess.
It's called resistance. Remember from the Aramaic language, the definition in the ancient scriptures of Satan, it's not this dude with the red suit, the tail, and the pitchfork. Satan means the resistor, one who misleads. And when there's something inside of us that we say, oh, that's too painful to look at, to deal with, I don't want to go there, and somebody suggests something that will elicit that, bring that forward, the tendency is to go into resistance, no, and then to have a whole story as to why I shouldn't go there, I shouldn't do that. And that's the mind misleading us. That's literally, in Aramaic, Satan. And most people in the culture live trapped in Satan, trapped in the past, just leading them around by the nose. So good catch. That's awareness is the first step for stepping out of being trapped in that and going to new levels of conscious creation.
Well, thank you for that reminder, because, I hadn't even thought it through that far, what you just said. I really am blocking something. So, and I'm hoping to come to Still Point on the 13th. I'm supposed to go out of town with him, my significant other, because his mother passed away about 2 weeks ago, and there's a gathering of family down in Southern California, and it's really going to take a lot of my time and energy. But because I'm willing and opening to keeping my appointment with the Still Point on the 13th, I've decided what I can do is just get my own hotel room for one night and that morning, because my timing is from 7 a.m. till how long it lasts.
Right.
So I'm solving it. The insights are coming, and now the mind shifter. Am I supposed to just choose one? Like you just demonstrated with what's her name, Heather? I can't remember, but anyway.
No, it was
Sarah.
Sarah.
Okay, excuse me.
Go ahead and pick two numbers, or stay with the same one, whichever you feel. If you want to pick two numbers, I'll give you a mind shifter, or if you feel like you need to continue with the one you had.
I was kind of thinking, I haven't done one yet, but I was thinking 3-3. You could give me that one. Yeah.
Okay. 3-3. Hold on, my computer decided to be slow here. Okay.
And
3-3
he's looking at that. I was just going to say, in your email, you've got a copy of that sheet, or you've probably printed it off.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to be on mute now because of going into my appointment, okay?
Okay.
And for those who may have chosen 3-3, it is I am love, period. I have all the wisdom, time, money, energy needed to accomplish all my aspirations.
I am love.
Perfect.
Time, money, wisdom, and energy I need to accomplish all my aspirations. Perfect. All right, young lady. Well, enjoy your appointment.
Yes. I will.
You're ready for that
one? Yes.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
And,
Bye.
Take care. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Well, we're down to 8 minutes. Well, actually, if you count the outro, we've got 7 minutes. So that's time for one more question. Somebody press 1.
Yeah, let's step into the conversation. If you haven't pushed 1 as yet, if you haven't opened your voice to share with us, push 1 and come on in. Let's talk about it. What's happening in your world? How can we support you? And if no one has a question for us, then I'll just say that if you're interested in doing the Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing Workshop that's coming up a week from Saturday, you can drop us an email. Drop Jeannie an email, JEANIE @whyagain.org. Give your name and phone number. Let her know you want to participate. We can get you set up for that. And, I don't think I completed the explanation that we've got it set up that you can do just 1 session, or you can do a package of 3 sessions, or you can register for the whole year, once a month for a year for that process. And so the single session cost for the 2 videos, you'll have permanent access to those, and an audio link on the Mind Shifters process. Just participating in 1 session is $150 for those 3 links, permanent access, and the workshop itself on Saturday and the follow-up session on Wednesday. Or if you do a package of 3, it's $125 each for 3, so $375 for 3 months of that. And or you can sign up for a year and a year is a total of $100 a month, or $1,200. Or if you pay in advance, it's reduced to $900. So it's really a minimal investment for ongoing support and really moving into mastering these two tools of mind shifters and still point breathing. So if you're interested in doing that, drop Jeannie an email, and or we do have our codependence to interdependence communication practicum available via a self-study program. And that self-study program includes a pre and the post personal code evaluation. And the personal code evaluation is a tool that we've been using for about 4 decades now that is designed to key into what are the issues my mind is hiding from me. It's based on the MMPI, which is kind of the gold. It's a Minnesota multiphasic personality inventory, and it's the gold standard of psychological testing. And we adapted that about 4 decades ago to be used specifically for the kinds of issues that we deal with in this work. So it measures on 10 different scales things like stress management, honoring self, honoring others, honoring truth, freedom from fear, freedom from hostility, honoring laws of living, nutrition, digestion, toxicity, the use of will. So it breaks down each of those areas and shows you where your blocks are. The mind can be very expert at tricking itself. So the MMPI is, having used that with people for about the last 40 years, it's at least 95% accurate. It just pinpoints right where are the areas in my mind where I can make the greatest gains, and then we'll give you assignments for your first 3 areas where you have challenges. So, prior to the intensive, we'll send you a link, you do the evaluation, then we'll give you feedback, and there's 2 hours of videos that you can study the feedback and understand exactly how it works and what the assignments are. And then go through the intensive, and then at the end of the intensive, you get to do it again, the evaluation, and you get feedback once again on exactly where you're at. You can see precisely where your advancement's been, where you've done your work. You'll see that monumental advancement. Where you haven't done your work, you'll see that your scores pretty much stay the same. And so the self-study can be done over whatever time period somebody chooses to do it. It includes 90 hours of video teaching, question, answer, and process work. It's actually a combination of 2 full codependence to interdependence communication practicums, specifically focused on process work, questions and answers, and really going in depth into the forgiveness process. Why is this happening to me again? Healing through relationships workshop. Communication, did you hear what I think I said? Mind shifters and still point breathing, and codependence to interdependence. So the whole program, the whole 90 hours is focused on those workshops. And there's a 90-hour process of self-study. We did those intensives on Zoom. They've been put together in a package. And then, of course, the radio show is here, so that if you choose to purchase that package, then we're here to answer questions and support you. So it's a self-study with support, an hour a day, 5 days a week from the radio show. So if you're interested in doing that program, the whole 90-hour program, including the personal code evaluation, is a total of $600. So it's a pretty small investment for that level of training. The intensive itself, the initial intensive that we did, which, if I remember correctly, was probably about, I think it was 60 hours of video. The initial cost of that was $1,800. And then we put that together with a second intensive where that was done self-study, and then we did the question and answer sessions. So there's 90 hours of work, pretty intense work, and in-depth inquiry into each of those workshops and the tools that we teach in those workshops. So if you're interested in that, again, drop Jeannie a note, or if you've got her number, give us a call. In the meantime, create the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.